Hey, Poland. So, unfortunately, I've had nobody want to come up and discuss things today. So, what I will do in these occasions is I will just have to give my opinion, and maybe that will incentivize some of you to come up and give me maybe a contrasting opinion or extra information you think I might have missed out. If you want to address things that I'm going to say, feel free to come up and discuss it with me. The purpose of these segments isn't a change my mind sort of scenario where I'm trying to create clips to dunk on people or anything like that. It is sheerly to help the area. But that said, it doesn't have to be whinging or anything negative for you to come up and talk to me. Maybe you know something about the area which you think is important to the identity of Ireland. Maybe your family worked down the pits or at the glassworks in some of the factories. There's a lot of heritage in the village, obviously. Highland, Elsica, Platts Common, all the surrounding Hoyland, Nether areas have a lot of history. So maybe you would like to elevate certain stories within the community that are important for us all to remember, that are part of our collective identity. So feel free to come up and discuss that as well if you have some cool stories about the area. However, the sort of real reason I'm starting to try and do this segment is so that people can elevate their voice about concerns they have in the area, and collectively we can collate these opinions. And once they're in a video and go online, they're much easier to reference again, and they're much more likely to be seen by more people than just typing a comment in the comment section in my island, which is then that post's gone and then nobody's really ever going to see it. Whereas if you're on a video, it's easier to reference again. Maybe your opinion is one that is then elevated and pushed beyond. You'll have to forgive me in this segment. I am suffering from man flu, so I'm not firing on all cylinders. So yeah, that's pretty much the first part of this segment anyway. So I'll give you my opinion anyway. And one of the main things that I find annoying is that we live in a Labour safe seat, and that is probably going to change. I imagine that a certain other party will take this seat. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me come up and let me know. Just for complete transparency, I'm not part of any political party, and I know that Michael, who runs my island, is a member of a party. That's his own decision. I am not a member of any party. Don't really have any intention of becoming a member of any party at the minute. Since I've been young, really, when I've voted, a lot of the time, I just spoil my paper because, as I say, I live in a Labour safe seat. My vote is essentially wasted unless I'm going to vote for the Labour Party. It's completely urinating into the wind, essentially, by trying to vote for anything else. And that is there's two parts to this problem. One, I think, is the apathy of people in the village. So this might sound like I'm attacking you, but this is just my opinion, that people have this, optimism bias, or they fall into the old rhetoric that Labour are for the working class, when, in my opinion, because this is just, I'm putting forward my opinion here, Labour are not for the working class. I grew up through the 90s. The first Prime Minister I ever really remember is John Major. But then after that, obviously, I saw the sort of lie that Labour always look out for the working man. I saw that lie shown to be true, I suppose, when nothing really changed for us during Blair and Gordon Brown. So, and that was as I was growing up. So then why would I ever vote for the Labour Party going forward? And I know many people my age feel the same way. I remember a clip from Richard Madeley years ago saying that his kids and many of his children's friends hated these legacy parties. And there is still some mark of pride there. Like, the Conservative Party is the oldest political party in the world. And even though I dislike the Conservative Party, that is still a sort of a not a mark of respect, but I don't know, maybe something to still be kind of proud of in British history, that we have the oldest political party. I mean, some of these things that we should be proud of being British to do with politics are now being eroded by the Labour Party, with potentially getting rid of juries, locking us up for 30 words. These are all like antithetical to the ideology that we spread around the world, where we tried to treat people fairly, and now the government is not treating us fairly. Again, this is all my opinion. If you disagree, come up and let me know. I'm not going to argue with you about it. Maybe I'll ask you some questions to help understand your opinion a bit better. But I'm not trying to change your opinion. Just as I hope you're not maybe trying to change mine. Maybe you are, though. And because, not because, but and the other component of why we have a Labour safe seat, which is not maybe to do with the electorate, is, well, then again, it still is because we have the first past the post system. I've never liked the first past the post system myself. It's why we have like things like a Labour stronghold here. Again, you have to forgive me that I'm ill. And there are positives and negatives to the two-party system, to the first past the post system. I mean, it does kind of facilitate a two-party system, I suppose, as I was about to say, which is, you could argue is positive or negative. I'd argue in terms of democracy, it's bad, because how is it democratic if you're just getting the two same parties in and out every time and battling each other? That's not very democratic, in my opinion. But at the same time, obviously, first past the post creates a strong government. If that strong government is working on your behalf, that would be beneficial. I mean, so many of you might not know, but the British Prime Minister is, in accordance with his office in the world, is one of the most powerful leaders in the world. The British Prime Minister is more powerful in his own country than what the US President is in his own country. Because a British Prime Minister is both the electorate and the legislature. He takes both roles. Obviously, there's many legislatures in Parliament, because that's what the government is for. They're the legislative body. Negative side, because they are so powerful, because they hold so much power in that office, they can almost act in an authoritarian manner, and there's pretty much nothing we can do. Many of you will remember this from Thatcher in the 80s, whether you're pro or against. We've got it with Keir Starmer now, just enacting things that nobody's asked for. Nobody was asking for digital ID, but that seems to be a thing that he's trying to force onto us. But on the counterpoint, which is why I think that the Labour Party are now discussing trying to change the voting system, because they know that should a certain other political party get the majority, that they are toast. So that is now why the Labour Party all of a sudden now discussing potentially like moving the election further away or changing the electoral system. And I know this is like rumour and hearsay more than anything, so many of you will be thinking I'm full of crap. Maybe I am. This is all like Chinese whispers at the minute, but it's well within the limits of a reasonable action that the Labour Party could take. And then another sort of conjoined into this is that we obviously have Stephanie Peacock as our MP because of this system. What is effectively known as, to the best of my knowledge, unless I'm going to get this term wrong, is a parachute MP. She was parachuted in to Ireland, and if I imagine Stephanie might see this if she follows my island. I've got no issue with you per se, but I do have a massive issue with people that aren't from an area getting parachuted into an area to govern it. And I think on a national level, this is something that's occurring as well, which then obviously descends into race and ethnicity and all these other sort of things, which is beyond the scope of what I'm talking about in this particular video. But on a local level, why are we having to put up with politicians that aren't from our area and have no real love or fondness, or other than their job, they have nothing to lose if things go south. They could just leave. Their family's not here. As far as I'm aware, maybe a family does live here. Maybe she has a mortgage here. I don't know. But the incentives for it going wrong are not the same as if it was somebody who's from the area, in my opinion. And as I say, I like nothing against her personally. You know what I mean? I once contacted her to resolve the issue up Hoyland Common when Every was built, and they had the bus stops were there, but there was no bus stops, no buses calling at the stops. They were still calling through the road that runs through Hoyland Common, which is just completely escaping me now. I think it's Sheffield Road, isn't it? I'm sure it is. You'll have to forgive me. I am very, very ill. And I contacted her, and she did rectify it. I think she had to send out 2 emails herself, but she did resolve it. She didn't respond to me, which is a little bit annoying. A little bit like, thank you for your message, I'll get on it. That'd be nice, but whatever. She still resolved it. So my issue isn't with her per se. My issue is with the system. And I'm a little bit on the fence with the first past the post thing. Having a strong government, if it was acting in our best interests all the time and improving things all the time, and we could see a visible increase in prosperity, I would have no issue, I don't think. But it's being used against us, which is why I dislike it. And things might be worse if we had a less strong government, but then they would certainly, I would say, be less tyrannical as well. Many of us think that we are sort of living in a sort of V for Vendetta timeline at the minute. And I pretty much think we're there, to be honest. If you watch V for Vendetta, it's 90% the same, to be honest. We're almost there. But yeah, that'll be my opinion anyway. This has already gone on longer than I thought, 12 minutes. I'll try and stop myself rambling even more. If you disagree with me, come and let me know. I'm not gonna argue with you about it and make a big deal. I'll get your opinion, let you talk. It'll be your segment, not mine. I'm merely the sort of the vehicle for you to be able to get your own opinion. And again, if you have maybe just want to tell me things about the local area that your family did, any local stories, any things you think are beneficial for us to all remember about the area. Like, for instance, I suppose, but one of my relatives did die in the First World War, died in the Battle of the Somme. I don't know much about the individual, to be honest. My mum knows a lot more than I do. That is sort of a little bit of like my relation to the area, I suppose. But I'll leave it there anyway. So hopefully I'll see you next week. See you later.